Hey guys, and welcome to this bite-sized episode of the Mission Makers podcast. We're going to dive back into some of our favourite episodes of Season 2 and pull out some of the key lessons from our incredible guests that will hopefully inspire and fuel your missions wherever you are in the world. So without further ado, this week's bite-sized episode is with none other than the legendary DJ and drag racer Carl Cox, who shares with us his top tips on staying mentally resilient, his values as a leader, and some of his highlights from his unbelievable 5-decade-long career in dance music.
I was very curious about the meaning of your name, and it was almost serendipitous to find out that your name means free man. And as we know, in the early years, music gave you that freedom. So has the essence around that freedom in your life and the relationship with music stayed the same as your career has progressed?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, fantastic research. I never knew that my name stood for free man in such a way.
Oh, wow.
It's very subconscious, at the end of the day, to find out, that my name stood for so much, because I've always felt free in the ideal of sharing music. My music, of what I, in the end of the day, wanted to share, my style, not my dad's style of music, was always funk, was always soul, jazz, Latin jazz, and eventually into hip hop, and eventually into electronic dance music from the early 80s into where we are today. So that's a massive journey of music, of which I do share at the moment on Cabin Fever, which I basically do my vinyl sessions every Sunday, that you get to hear my life through vinyl and my correct collection. So it's, for me, it's come around full circle, the end of the day, based on what I used to do back in the day with the vinyl, to where I am now, still sharing the love of that vinyl today. So my enthusiasm from the beginning of when I basically started to collect music, make enough money for me to go and buy my own records, to where I am now, I'm so happy to share my life in music through vinyl. I think what I'm doing now with Cabin Fever is the only thing I can do to represent myself for who I am. Because what I didn't really want people to feel, that my whole integrity of my life as a DJ has only been about two things: techno music and Ibiza. It's like, okay, I get those two things, but I came from the school of music, musicians, bands, songs, songwriting, exposed to these elements of people who basically, for myself, that I got infused by listening to these bands, tracks that are arranged, guitar solos, violin pieces, all sorts of things that embodies my inimitable sound, to go deeper into my total existence of why I'm still here after all of these years. So it all comes from these humble beginnings to begin with. But I've always, the thing is, as a self-employed DJ, if you don't work, you don't get paid. So, you have to market yourself. Don't forget, at that particular time, there was no internet. Nada. You had to physically go out there and put your cards in pubs, in cafeterias, taxi ranks, telephone boxes, whatever you could do to get your name out there. That is how you did it. And then reputation. If you did a really good job and people were like, "Wow, you're great, mate. I like you. What's your name again?" Carl Cox. Oh, okay. I'll tell my friend about you and and I'll do that friend's party, and that friend would tell that friend. So I was actually getting a lot of work just through association, not even just through marketing. It's just that if you do a good job, that's what happens. So, and I've always said you're only as good as your last job. So if you did a shitty job, that's your last job. End of story.
It's kind of well known that the arena of the music industry is highly political, and it rarely escapes any artist, any industry professional, no matter what stage they're at. So what would your advice be to artists and professionals who have to face these tough mental minefields? How have you stayed resilient during this 4 decades that you've had in the music industry?
I think what it is for me more than anything else is the way how I grew up in the scene. There was no template for success. There was no template for making music. There was no template for how to make a party or run a party. It was just how you felt at the time, by whatever you felt that you could basically give. It's all about giving. It was never about taking at all. And for me, it's never about taking. And I've always said to myself, if I get paid to do anything, it's an absolute bonus. Thank you very much. If you've enjoyed yourself and you want to show me some gratitude by paying me, and then thank you. I mean, it's the same for race car drivers. It's the same for horse racers. It's the same for tennis players. It's the same for any profession. Footballers get 10 times more money than God. But if he kicks that goal the ball in the goal at that particular time, and you paid your season ticket subscription, and that's all you want to see happen, you're more than happy to go, that's why I pay my season ticket. So for me, the drive has never been about what I can get out of it. It's what I can give to it, to what I get out of it. And I think that's, if there's a secret to success for me, I think it's always been about that, because I've never chased anything. I remember going to a seminar a few years ago. This was in Miami. And I sat there with some top EDM DJs at the time, and they were talking about chart success, and especially in Beatport. And I'm just sitting there, I've had chart success with some records I put out, but I've never chased chart success. It just happened because I was there at the time, and the record that I had made became very popular, and I was very happy with that. At the end of the day, but I knew my second record wouldn't be as big as the first one. I knew my album would be seminal, but I knew that it would be my opportunity to show people my scope of my music. But I never chased anything. I just made an embodiment of tracks which represented me, and then I had a deal with a company called Edo Records from Germany that took up the option of my music. So I put out 2 albums with them, and then my third album I basically put out on my own independent record label called Intech Records, which all roads leads to the dance floor. But meanwhile, I've always kind of like just felt that it's difficult mentally if you're chasing something. And if you don't get there, you feel like a failure, or you feel like you could have done something different, or it feels like that maybe people don't like you, or it's not the sound of now, or this sort of. I'm like, forget about all of it. The fact that you've done something, you created something, and it's yours, he or she, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, that's a success. Because there's a lot of people out there that are not doing what you're doing in any way, shape, or form. So if you do become successful by it, then great. You've done something that people really enjoy. And it's not a commercial sellout on anything. It's just that it doesn't matter. It worked, and that's it. And I found when these DJs were talking at the music seminar, they were upset with themselves because they didn't get a number 1 spot. They got number 4, number 3, or number 2. I was like, really? You're upset because you didn't get to number 1, and number 4 and number 3 not good enough? And for them, it wasn't. They had to be number 1. So if you got like 20 DJs who all want to be number 1, then you can have 19 people very upset with themselves because they didn't make it. So therefore, they make another record to see if it works. Make another record to see if it works. And so if that doesn't work, there's more pain, more mental pain. More mental pain doesn't happen. And that's really difficult because there's people out there who are trying to make it, trying to find out where they are. If you're trying to make drum and bass and you want to try and be like Andy C, well, yeah, great. But Andy C's already there. If you want to try and be like Tiesto, that's great. But Tiesto's already there. And the list just keeps going on and on and on. So whatever you do, you have to do because you love it, you enjoy it, and that makes you who you are, no matter what success you're looking for. The success will only come if you just continue to do what you do and be happy by it. You just have to be happy. That's your strength, to be happy. Because if you're upset and unhappy by it, it makes your life a lot more difficult to be understood based on what you're trying to achieve. And for me, I've never, ever chased anything. I've just done it because it felt right for me to do what I'm doing. It's the reason why I play drum and bass, hard techno, funk, soul, Latin jazz, call it what you like. At the end of the day, I would be sharing it with the utmost passion because it just feels right for me to do it at that particular time. Of course, I'm not going to play drum and bass if it's a techno crowd. I'm not going to play techno crowd to a drum and bass crowd. But as a DJ, I have the nuance to be able to understand and to see how this party is going to go and how it's going to end up. And people trust me to play the music that makes sense to them as the reason why they bought their ticket or they're there at a particular time. I've had to win over so many people, so many times, all of the time. Even today, it's just incredible. But what keeps me basically mentally sane is that I know that the music that I'm sharing is the best you're going to hear. I believe that. Whether it's soul music, the best you're going to hear. Hip hop, the best you're going to hear. Techno music from real techno music or whatever, the best you're going to hear. And that for me is what gives me my strength to continue to do what I'm doing. Wherever I'm number 1, 20, 200, my records don't even hit the charts, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's the fact that I'm doing it and I will continue to do it makes me feel whole, knowing that's what makes me who I am.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really, really true. And that, you need to stay grounded and rooted to that anchor point of really believing in what you do. Otherwise, you lose your authenticity if you chase that popularity to get to a certain benchmark, and then, you get there and what happens next? I always feel like the goalpost, the journey towards it is far more, fulfilling than actually getting there. Because the next day you wake up, it's something else, So definitely some really wise words there for staying grounded in the face of success and how to navigate in these sort of highly political arenas. Nikola Tesla once said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And it's very interesting how this philosophy could apply to successful DJs like yourself, who clearly have this innate ability to navigate the energy, frequencies, and vibrations of a space. And you alluded to it just there, where you have to always prove to your audience that you can take them on this journey. Every time that the dance floor is different, and they have a different energy. So when you're at the controls, how do you kind of read the energy of what's going on, particularly in bigger spaces where there is less intimacy between yourself and the crowd?
I was always playing at least minimum 8 to 9 hours every time I played. Or I would play from beginning to end every single time. That's normal for me to do that. It's abnormal for me to be playing just a 1 or 2 hour set. So, you have to go on that journey, no matter what. If you're going to have people captivated to you the whole time, and then that's what it is. So when I did my space set in 2016, and it was 10 hours, it's 10 hours. So, and I had no plan. I just had, I said, I'm going to play half of it in vinyl and the other half of that digitally. And it's our night. Here we go. But I could only do that if I had done that before or had grown into it, because I'm guaranteed that a lot of DJs wouldn't do it, or they'd have it planned in the sense of where it would start and where it would end up. And they'd be stressing, because if you plan your set and it doesn't quite work out, you've got to change it up into something else. So my plan was with that 10-hour set was to not go too overboard with the BPMs, but play all classic records that made the club over the many years, and hold them. So I started at 10 o'clock at night, and I held them all the way 124 BPM, all the way to about 3 o'clock. And then when 3 o'clock in the morning came, and then from 3 until 8, and then it went 124, 125, and sped it all the way up to about 130. And then by the end of the night, it's like, yes. So if you was there at the beginning, it was a different style of set. If you got there halfway through, it was something else. If you went there, the journey from 3 until 8, then that was something else. And that's your journey. And that, again, that's on YouTube if you choose to watch it and listen to it. But, that was my schooling. It's the only way how I could justify myself by, the idea of how to basically fit into the realm of being a DJ. Me being a punter first really, really helped me, for sure, to understand the dance floor.
100%. I mean, observation, the art of observation is phenomenal, and to feel frequencies and to hear it on different sound systems, different environments, is an absolute must. And also, I think there's something within there that you mentioned about, obviously playing really long sets, having that fluidity then to take that, in any environment, but also within those, all those hours, they're not going to be all peak sets. There's going to be a lot of warming up. And I think, DJs need to know how to warm up an environment, because you can't always have it at its peak. And that's never always going to be your role either. Definitely very, very interesting. And talking about, the relationship with space and the legendary 16-year residency that you had. It's been, almost 5 years. How do you sort of reflect on the opportunities that new beginnings present, and almost the unstoppable power of letting go?
But I was always making sure that the discotheque was the Carl Cox room, the church, for me at the end of the day. And so we went into year 6, year 7, bigger, year 8, bigger, 9. I'm thinking, okay, 10 years, thanks very much. You've been lovely. And we'll move on. And when we got to 10 years, the club was just biblical. It's epic. People coming from all over the world. It was, people were like, you haven't been to the island until you've been to Carl Cox's night and a Tuesday night space. I'm like, wow, it's becoming legendary. But it's 10 years, that's incredible. So, year 11, I thought, okay, it will tail off. No, more people, more legendary. Year 12, 13, 14. I'm like, how many years am I supposed to be going to be DJing in this place? 15. And then we were told that the club, we're going to lose the club by 2016, purely based on ownership of the club, and the lease, belonged to another family on the island called BITESIZE family, and then Pepe had to basically give up that lease back to them family, which reverted back to them, and that's the only reason why the club went down. And for me, space was my whole essence on that island. At the end of the day, you couldn't just say space without Carl Cox, or Carl Cox without space, or Carl Cox without Ibiza, without space. It was that was the connection. It was like, if we were still going today, I'll still be there now, going into year 22 or something stupid. But it was how it was. It was an understood situation between me, the people, the dance floor, and the island, and that was taken away from us by 2016. So you can imagine it was a very sad day for everybody to see that happen in the way that it had been. And it was very hard to come back from it, because we never really had an opportunity to find another space to continue the legacy of space.
Switching gears a little bit, on the topic of motorsport, of course, you have now had the opportunity to kind of go back and explore this childhood passion on a much deeper level. And you've achieved a lot with Carl Cox Motorsport in a short space of time. I'd love to know what's your ultimate long-term vision for the team, for the company. What would you really like to achieve with it?
And that, again, we've setting up this company, or the idea that you got Carl Cox the DJ and Carl Cox the rev head. You know what I mean? Wakes up and puts petrol on his chin after he's just had a shave. People don't understand it. My passion for cars, motorcycles, racing is as strong as it is for music. The passion of it.
So you are at the helms of leading diverse teams, and that's not just in music and motorsport, but also gastronomy. What are some of your key values for leading great teams? And do you feel that maybe the philosophies of motorsports, like you've alluded to there, and some of the mental capacities and stuff, has made you an even more agile leader?
I think a lot of it is to do with my star sign. Because my star sign is I'm a Leo. So apparently Leos are natural born leaders, because we're the lions. So maybe it's just something to do with it. I don't know. But I've always felt like that. It's not that I want to control anybody or anything. It's just that I want to be able to have an opportunity to even see if by what I'm doing and what I feel I can do to help others, I can bust that door open. I can basically go, right, I think this is really important for us to do that right now. I think in the future of where we're going to end up after this pandemic, I don't think there's going to be so many DJs like there was before. The doors are closing every week for DJs at the moment, unfortunately, because there's no parties for DJs to do. And when the DJs do go back out, it's not going to be the same as it once was. So I'm already changing my narrative as an artist to go back out. If I'm going to be doing something new and special and interesting, it's because of my live music.
You said a long time ago in an early 90s magazine that you can't DJ when you're 45, can you? Has your dedication surprised you? And would you say that the only limits in life are the ones that we place for ourselves?
I'm 59 this year.
Gee.
And I still have the same essence to DJ today than I did when I started. So that quote now doesn't become a realistic quote for me, because I've surpassed it like tenfold to even get to, I'm going to be a 60-year-old DJ and still connect with the now generation, and seen as Papa Cox or whatever you want to call me, I see myself being into a more of an ambassadorial role for DJs. But the thing is, my passion for it will never wane. It just cannot. Not if it's not going to wane now, it's not going to do it at all. You know, if I got to 45, I said, right, that's it, stop DJing, and then that quote would have been right, or I stopped before that. But it wasn't possible. You know, everything that was going on around me was just driving me to do it more and more and more. So it's amazing that people still kind of pick that up by that quote. But I think it's a wonderful quote because I've just surpassed it more than anyone's comprehension and still going. It's like blimey.
Carl, thank you so much. It's been an absolute honour, privilege, mind blown, and thank you so much for sharing so much of your time and life and your journey with us. We are so grateful, and we can't wait to share this with our audience.
That's absolutely fantastic, and it's been a pleasure speaking to you. And you clearly have done your homework, and thanks very much also for coming down to space, because it's hard. One thing talking about it, it's another thing experiencing it, and you've experienced it, so you know.
Thank you guys for listening. Season 3 will be back with a bang in the autumn. Until then, we've got plenty of impactful bonus and bite-sized episodes coming your way. So don't forget to subscribe and share the show with your friends, because it truly means the world to us. And if you're interested in some super cool rewards like virtual DJ lessons with me, signed books from our guests, and exclusive merchandise, then head over to www.patreon.com/Mission Makers to check out how you can start supporting the show for less than what it costs you to fill up your car. So till then, Mission Makers, be safe, be healthy, and be laser focused.